Okay, a very pleasant evening, one and all. Welcome to the 24th session, probably the last training session. So a hearty welcome to our 24th session of the 3-month training program on school counseling. So I welcome Chief Patrons of WCOP, Professor P.V. Ramurthy Garu, Professor Girishwar Mishra Garu, and also welcome patrons of WCOP, Professor Vedagir Ganeshan sir, and he is also the chairman of this 3-month training program. And other patrons, Professor R.N. Singh Garu, and also Professor B.G. Reddy Garu, President WCOP, General Secretary Professor Subhashini Garu, Professor V. Suresh, Treasurer WCOP, and also our chairperson for today's session, Professor A.R. Krishnamurthy Garu, resource person, and Treasurer of the WCOP, Professor V. Suresh Garu, and also we have two special invitees, Dr. N. Easter Thomas Garu and Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Garu. So I also welcome all the WCOP committee, executive committee members and committee members and beloved participants. A hearty welcome once again. As program coordinator, I invite all the above special persons. So now I request Professor B.G. Reddy Garu, President of WCOP, to initiate the program.
Good evening, everyone. Chief patrons, and today's resource person, Professor V. Suresh, core committee member, as well as treasurer of WCOP and general secretary, then executive committee members, then core committee members, beloved participants, and repertoire of this program, Rama Devi, then special invitees, Dr. N. Easter, another special invitee, Vijay Kumar Garu. Once again, welcoming you to this. She said this is a last training program. Yeah, one more final session, 25th, is there. That is happened to be the valedictory session. But apart from that, simply valedictory session without any talk, it will not be completed as a valedictory session. So anyway, we are planning in such a manner that it should be, the session should be sound enough. Then, now, today, I will just what the participants have to do. Soon after completion of the session, I will inform you, I will give some instructions to the participants. Kindly follow so that it enriches the training program, 3-month training program. All right. Now again, I'm handovering the mic to Rama Devi to go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So today currently I invite our chairperson, Professor A.R. Krishnamurthy Garu, who is a well-known person to the group. So I don't think he needs an introduction now. So I request him to give a quick message for the group.
Thank you very much, the coordinator today's program, Rama Devi, and then President Govind Reddy, Professor Suresh, and others. It is a pleasure to share some of the thoughts I have come across in my mind today as soon as I saw that I had to chair the session. So to begin with, the program has been initiated to help or sensitize teachers, particularly of high school students, school age level, to attend to the needs of the children, that is youth. So usually at the high school level, we have got pre-adolescents, pre-pubertal stages work, then puberty and post-pubertal period, ranging from 12 to 15, which makes up the cream. So they have, they have moved from the childhood to the adolescent age. it is a crucial stage. Then they will have to move on to the adulthood. So this period is very crucial for them because they have to give away what they have acquired and acquire new patterns of behavior. So in my about 50 years back, I made a study on high school students and their problems. And in that connection, I noticed that this period is what we call as a period of stress and stardom. They will be attaining puberty, and then they have to adjust to the physical development. They have to adjust to the demands made on them from social, cultural background. They have to also go through with the academic pressures because they have to prepare for the later careers. So this becomes a very crucial period. Unless there is some kind of attention given to these from these teachers as well as from parents, they will find it very difficult to cope up. Some will have easy passage to the later stage, but some require some kind of help at this level. So to sort out emotional problems, social problems, academic problems, personal relationship, and so on. So in this connection, whatever the program that has been done till now, attending to the certain problems that high school students face, such as examination fear, peer pressure, and then pressure from their studies and so on. Also attending to certain deviation to behavior, like present day, we have got the addiction to internet usage. A lot of complaints are coming up. So in this regard, how teachers have to help the student? So unless the teachers are very close to the students because about 5 to 6 hours of time is spent in the school premises. So it becomes necessary for us teachers particularly to know the student very well and identify any problems that develops at that stage, at that level. So once recognition of the problem comes up, the ways of handling them also is easy. So should we change their thinking patterns? Should we help them to mature emotionally? Should we able to help them? What is it that we have to do with regard to their fears and anxieties and so on? Particularly high school students go through this kind of stress. So they develop depression, they develop anxiety, which they express in various forms, such as disobedience or aggressive behavior or withdrawal and so on. So if we sensitize ourselves to the needs of these children, it will be helpful for them to cope up with the situation, develop skills that are very necessary, problem solving skill, and then stress management skills and so on, which will help them to become matured persons. Otherwise, at later stage, what we have seen is, I have worked in clinical setup for nearly 20 years, along with the teaching. So I headed the clinical psychology department at Coimbatore University. In our department was attached to a nursing home, Mansa nursing home, which used to attend to many patients from mild to severe. So there used to be reference for us from student group also, which I had seen as examination tension or disobedience or withdrawal. So it is very necessary for us to enrich ourselves with the needs of these students and also develop certain skills by ourselves. That is what the motto is: train yourself and train others. So by training ourselves, we can train others also, give assistance to others. What counseling is essentially giving help to the needy by the trained person in a setup that is very organized. So in this regard, whatever our group is doing, WCOP, is very much appreciated and very useful also. With these words, I conclude my presentation, sharing of thoughts. Well, Professor Suresh is very well versed in this area to give certain ideas about managing students' problems. So with this, I hand over the mic to the organizers. I thank profusely Professor Reddy for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for your kind gesture, sir, and also briefing about the crucial stage or crucial phase of the adolescents and how to adjust themselves for the socially, economically, emotionally, academically, emotionally, behaviorally, so and the skills to develop to make them mature and to have their own to balance themselves. Thank you, sir. So now I request a special invitee, Dr. Rista Somas, who is a professor or lecturer in Government Diet College, Rajahmundry. Though I haven't met her personally, I have a little acquaintance with her because we both are associated with the same NGO, Bhumika Women's Collective. So I request now Esther Thomas Garu to address the group and introduce herself. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I am very glad to share my feelings in front of you. This is a wonderful program. WCOP organized so many programs. Last year in Corona time also, they conducted suicidal tendency. This program was very useful. And also, we also use those techniques in our daily life. You know, this program is very useful to school teachers because of teachers are very close related to the students, and also the students also very nowadays, according to the globalization and modernization and urbanization, industrial development, we are very developing very well, and also students also very awareness in all ways because of according to the internet and etc etc. And also not only they are developing very well, but also they are also facing so many problems, especially they also feel about stress and behavioral problems and drug addiction, cell addiction, and low marks and the anxiety problems. Like this way, and also the students also are undergoing to depression also. So in our school, we face so many problems like truancy, daydreaming, withdrawal, stagnation, etc., etc., and they are going to depression also. So the teacher must know how to mingle those students, how to give counseling. This program is very wonderful to give training to the participants. In this program, all participants are already very well, and also they are in trained participants. They are completed their PG in psychology, and also they are doing so many diplomas also. This WCOP program also encourages the participant to counsel the students very well. That means we are requesting to we continue these programs so many ways, and it is helpful to the students. Thank you very much for this opportunity is given by our sir, respected sir BG Reddy, and eminent speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your kind words and encouraging words, how to deal with the students and encouraging the teachers to come forward to look into the problems of the students to develop a good rapport with them. So now I request retired senior lecturer of Government Diet College from Chittoor, Mrs. Vijay Kumari Garu, to introduce herself and
good evening to everybody. Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. This is very good opportunity, unique opportunity for me to be with you all to share my few thoughts with all you all. I would like to focus on the psychological issues of class 1 to 10 because I worked in that college, Carvet Nagaram, and I was a teacher also. I have observed many things among the students from class 1 to class 10. Because generally, even parents and teachers also, they stamp or label the children so and so is very clever, so and so is very dull, like that. And it is modernized instead of calling dull students, and we are asked to call them as slow learners and fast learners, so that they may not feel that we are not studying well, we are dull students, like that. So primarily the teachers should say that, even parents also compare, they will compare the children who studies well and who is slow learner. So it is a very important psychological factor that affects the student's mind right from the beginning. So we need not label them with that. They learn slowly. Some people learn fast and some people learn slowly. So teachers should encourage, first of all, and that message should go to parents also, not comparing them, the students, as students. So then most of the children will develop their own identity by improving their knowledges. If once they are called dust, or they are not studying so and so is well, this is the foundation, especially in primary grades. This is the function. If the foundation is like that, we are
Excuse me, ma'am, your voice is breaking. Vijay Kumari, ma'am. Ma'am, your voice is not clear, ma'am.
Ramadevi,
Sir,
yes, there is some technical problem with madam. Then request Professor Suresh sir to go ahead.
okay, sir. Uh, uh, Thank you for the words of Vijay Kumari, ma'am. Certainly, she is true that one should not label a child with being a dull or any other things, and not comparing with others. And the parents also have to keep this in, uh, should be aware of this, that by comparing the children, they will lose their confidence. So now I request our renowned resource person, Professor V. Suresh Garu, who is the treasurer of the WCOP as well. Now I request him to address the group and proceed with the program.
Good evening to all. I'm glad to join you again today. And since this is the last session, I think my job is going to be easier. But at the same time, there will be a lot of repetition also. You'll have to bear with that because all these days you would have heard about that. Anyway, let me start because the topic that we are supposed to talk about is the goals of counseling. And I start with the need for counseling. Though I've mentioned about it earlier, I would like to mention it now also. The need for counseling occurs because changes occur either within us or outside or both. So when there is a change, there occurs a gap between our state and the requirement outside. So when the gap occurs, that is when an adjustment problem occurs. So as a result, all of us do experience changes and all of us do make adjustments in real life situations from time to time. But at the same time, there are some people who have difficulty in making adjustment. So when you say adjustment, generally in our day-to-day life situation, people believe that yielding to the environmental pressure is adjustment. That is not the case. When you yield to environmental pressure and you compromise on your needs, like for example, when the work is heavy, I have heard people saying that every day, each day they skip their breakfast, they have only their lunch. And when they are young, you are able to manage, but it has its own cumulative effect in the long run. And at some point of time, it comes out and we say, well, it is an indication of aging. I won't just say it is an indication of aging. It is also a reason for our abuse of our health in the past. So when you are healthy, that doesn't mean that you need to ignore things, but we have a tendency to ignore like that, which has its own impact on our physical health. The same way psychological needs are also ignored. That's on the one side. The other side is there are people who attach too much importance to their needs and ultimately do not do their responsibilities properly, where the outside world may be unhappy with the individual. There would be a gap between the two constantly, and there would be adjustment problems. So when there is a need for adjustment, we have to resolve it in a healthy way, which should be a balance between the fulfillment of our needs, at the same time fulfillment of their responsibilities also. And this involves setting priorities from time to time. And as I have mentioned earlier, no textbook can tell you that this is the right priority. And no other individual can tell you that this is the right priority. My priority may not be your main priority. As a result, it may change from individual to individual based on their needs, based on the circumstances, etc. As a result, it can be learned to a large extent only through experience. And I'm mentioning the word experience because only when you encounter that, when you practice, when you make decisions, when you solve your problems, only then you develop your ability. And when you allow somebody else to do things for you, that means you are not taking responsibility for your own self. That means you are irresponsible. That is why I say that many of the parents, especially in the urban area, are irresponsible because they actually shift their responsibility to the teachers at a later stage for what they have not done for their child when they were young. And it has lifelong impact on the personality development of the child, which parents do not understand. That is why first I wish to stress on the fact that when children experience difficulties in school, counseling doesn't mean should be given only to the children. No, I would say that the parents, the teachers, all of them should be involved with regard to the problems faced by children. Because when there is a suicide, when there are suicides among youngsters today, especially adolescents, well, it is a serious hidden social problem. And unless parents and teachers come together and understand why youngsters commit suicide and how their approach, because the suicide is not just a weakness of the youngster alone. It is a faulty priority of the society, like the parents, etc. also. Because every parent wants their child to be a doctor, to be an engineer. Whereas the child realizes that, well, he may not be happy being a doctor or an engineer, which the parents do not understand, do not care for. So ultimately, youngsters are forced to take wrong decisions. So that is where, unless it is a team effort, when children are in school, team effort of the parents, the teachers, etc. Because when children experience difficulties, first parents should try to understand in what way they are responsible for the difficulty. The teacher should understand in what way they are responsible for that. When they understand their roles, when they perform, to a large extent, many of these problems can be solved. So it is not that only the youngsters need counseling. That is not the case at all. Right. So maintaining a balance between one's needs and demands is what we call as adjustment. So when there are difficulties in maintaining a balance, that is when the need for counseling occurs. Right. Now, coming to what counseling is all about. Again, I'll be briefly mentioning about it. As you would have seen, counseling is the process of assisting a person. There are two terms you need to focus on. One is it is a process. Number two, assisting a person. So when you say a process, it occurs gradually, step by step. Counseling cannot be an overnight affair. And I would say that, well, there are no shortcut to human problems. So we should not try to find instant solutions to problems. That should not be the case. So we must provide them enough time to put in the effort to bring in the change. So changes are to be brought in. So it is a process of assisting a person. It is not that you are doing something for the other person. You are helping a person to learn something so that he learns a skill or a change in behavior, etc. So counseling is only an assistance provided. So the ultimate goal of counseling is to make the individual self-sufficient. That is, the person should be able to deal with his own life problems without the need for assistance from somebody like a counselor. That is the ultimate goal. So assisting a person by a trained person. So the trained person is the counselor now. Please move yourself. So a trained person on a professional basis. So counseling is not a personal friendship or something like that. That is not the case. There is a boundary, and unless you perform the role within the boundary, well, it may get complicated. That's why it is said that on a professional basis to resolve personal. So when you say personal, there may be psychological inadequacies in a person, social, interacting with other people, interpersonal, or other difficulties and individual experiences. So that is the meaning of counseling. And as I mentioned earlier, people think that, well, when someone has a problem, when you go to a counselor, the counselor gives you the solution. That is not the case. Please keep that in mind. The counselor assists the person in finding a solution. So the counselor is not giving a ready-made solution to a person. That is one. Number two, I've also seen sometimes parents approaching me or teachers approaching me that this child is behaving like this. I will bring him to you. You do something and then change him according to my expectation. That is not the case at all. It is not changing the person according to the expectation of others. So changing the person to face problems effectively and solve her or his own problems effectively. That is the change. Change is not manipulating the individual to the expectation of other people. You will be doing an injustice to the person. So you must try to see what is good for this person, for his life, which will enhance the quality of the life of the individual. That is what you need to see, and you are responsible for enhancing the quality of life of the individual. So that is what counseling is all about. Right. Now, coming to the goals of counseling. One is facilitating behavior change. So when we say behavior here, behavior does not necessarily mean outward action. It can be internal processes also, like the way I think, the way I interpret the behavior of other people, the way I feel. So as a result, say, for example, when I aim to get a first rank, but I get a second rank, I feel dejected. Well, it is not really something bad. The heavens are not going to come down. But I feel that, well, I have not got a first rank. As a result, I am a good for nothing person. The feeling is improper here. So change in the behavior, feelings has to be brought in. So when you say facilitating behavior change, it can be the way of thinking, it can be the way of feeling, it can be the way of relating with people, can be the way of doing things outwardly. It can be anything, or it can be a combination of many of these. So facilitating behavior change, because my existing behavior is not helping me in achieving the goal. As a result, I am experiencing my difficulty, but at the same time, I do not know what the inadequacy in me is, because I have been behaving in a particular way all this time. And as a result, for me, my behavior is normal, but for others, it may be something different. As a result, I should understand why other people look at me in that particular manner. Because I've seen, including myself, I've seen that teachers think that initially that I have to be strict, otherwise children will not learn. But there is a difference between being strict and being firm. So when you are strict, you try to be rigid. So when you try to be rigid and handle children in a more harsh manner, then children hesitate to approach you when they have difficulty with regard to their learning. And the thing is, well, I'm available, these fellows don't approach me, as a result, they don't have motivation to learn. You put the blame on them, which actually is not the case. So that way, facilitating behavior change. Another one is improving ability to establish and maintain relationships. Establish and maintain relationships. It is not an easy job. And initially establishing a relationship, you need to adopt certain approaches, skills, you require certain skills, etc. So as a result, initially you try to look at it from the point of view of the other person. You try to approach the person in such a way that the person will tend to like you, etc. And once you establish the relationship, the second thing, in the long run, maintaining a relationship. Maintaining a relationship involves time, efforts, etc. That is why in social psychology you would have studied. Well, establishing a love is easier, but maintaining a love is not easier. So a love affair has many ups and downs. There are many difficulties because there are clashes between the two individuals, and then subsequently they try to modify their approach, they try to adjust, and all those things that happen. So that is why the first love affair is never smooth. It can never be smooth. So as a result, establishing a relationship requires one approach, a short-term approach, and then maintaining a relationship involves a long-term approach. That is why you can see when you talk about interpersonal attraction, say for example, initially we give importance to the appearance of the person, the way he is dressed, the way he appears, whether he appears pleasant, etc. So accordingly, when the person is neatly dressed, when the person appears pleasant, initially we feel like approaching him and establish a relationship with him. But outward appearance alone does not help in the long-term relationship. In the long term, what happens once we come together, two individuals come together because each one has a need. Like if you are good in the study in a particular subject, if I'm weak, I may come closer to you thinking that, well, you will help me to learn that. So unless you help me to learn that, well, I may not find the relationship rewarding. The same way, you may have some expectation from me. Unless I fulfill that, the relationship may not get strengthened, and it may not continue for a longer duration of time. So as a result, for which interpersonal skills are required, when there is an inadequacy in that, then again, a person may experience difficulties like communication skills and other things. The next one is enhance effectiveness and ability to cope. So when you say enhance effectiveness, what it implies is that already you are effective, but that doesn't mean that you have reached the maximum point, not necessarily. So which means you can further improve. There is no end for perfection. Perfection is a relative term. Like if in my class when I teach, if the result is, let us say, for example, 70%, that means I need to improve because 30% of the people do not benefit from my way of teaching. So there is still scope for improvement. As a result, though everyone may appreciate me, I should try to see in what way can I still improve my teaching. Because personally, I may experience certain inadequacies, or I may feel that these inadequacies are to be overcome, which others may not point out. Which means I need to find ways of further enhancing those skills. So 70% should become 80, 80 should become 90, 90 should become 100, and 100 doesn't mean that I'm perfect now. Well, when I produce 100% result here, well, with these students, well, I may be effective, but for different set of students, I may not be that much effective. Then I must learn that, etc. So that is what you mean by enhance effectiveness and ability to cope. When you say coping, there are two things. One is adapting, the other one is coping. When you say adapting, what you do is you try to change the environment to suit your convenience. When you say coping, you are taking efforts to adjust to the external environment. And that is where the need for counseling actually is on the increase in the present day world. One of the main reasons I would attribute as a student of psychology is that our undue dependence on technology. For whatever we need to learn, we try to use the technology and the machine does it for you. So ultimately, for example, well, you find it easy to type in a computer and then the letters are very neat and clean. And as a result, you lose your capacity to write. And when you have to write with your hands at some point of time, you become very slow and your handwriting is not good, etc. So you have been depending on an outside source. In the process, you have failed to develop your inner resource. So that is why, as a student of psychology, I always say that as far as possible, try to use your inner resources, master that activity, and then use technology to assist you. Don't straight away become dependent on technology. That is the reason for many of our problems today. So that is what is happening. So that way, when you say coping, as I said, what you do is there are boundaries in the environment. So when there are boundaries in the environment, then you need to learn to do things like, for example, when you are learning to drive, if the road is straight, there is no difficulty. All that you need to do is to hold the steering wheel. But when there are many very sharp curves, so what it implies is it sets a boundary very often where you need to modify your driving. So there you can master the skill of driving only when you do it like this. The same way in real life situation, when there are boundaries, don't try to alter the boundary to suit your convenience. Try to alter your behavior to suit the boundary only when you become psychologically stronger. But nowadays, for everything, for example, earlier people had to walk from one place to the other. Subsequently, well, the postal system came, you wrote letters. So when you wrote letters, you had to write a letter, post it, and then wait for the other person to send a reply, which may take a couple of days. So you were tolerant to wait for 3 or 4 days to get a reply. Then subsequently, the telephone came. So you had to wait for some hours. Then subsequently, what happened? The STD came and all those things came. And in all those things, well, initially you had to dial a number and then you had to press each button. And now there is a touch screen. And in future, even touching the screen may find it difficult. So if I think of the person, the call should go automatically and technology may come for that also. So that way, we are making life more and more easy. That is not a desirable way of doing that. So as students of counseling on the one side, and as teachers on the other side, since you understand the process now, when you teach your students, I'll insist that they use their inner resources, not a convenient way of doing it. Let them do it in a right way rather than a convenient way. So that is what you mean by coping. Then promoting decision making. So when you say promoting decision making, each day, right from the moment you get up in the morning till you go to bed, we make umpteen number of, in any situation, there are many alternatives. So when there are many alternatives, you cannot have all the alternatives. So you can choose only one alternative. Like, for example, well, there is a course on psychology, there is a course on sociology, there is a course on chartered accountancy, there is a course on technology, there is a course on medicine. The ideal thing is, if I have knowledge and skill in all of them, life would be nice. But practically, that is not possible. Then I'll have to make a choice from among these things. That is what you mean by decision. Many of the decisions may be reversible. Like when you buy a pen, the cost of the pen may be 50 or 100 rupees. So you may be a little bit casual. So if the pen is not suitable for me, I can just give it to somebody, I can buy another pen. But at the same time, when it comes to choosing a life partner, you cannot do that. But unfortunately, we are trying to do it in the present day life situation. And that, like, divorce has become easier compared to the olden days. As a result, when two people are unable to get along well, they just say we're diverse. And nowadays, people say that living together, from a psychological point of view, I see that they are not willing to take responsibility. So when there is a living together, well, we'll be under the same roof. When we don't get along well, we will go away in our own way. Whereas when I marry a person, well, socially, I am committed to that person. Only then you will be forced to understand the other person better. You will be forced to make alterations in your behavior to suit the convenience of the person, to please the person, etc. So that way, when you make decisions, you must try to see the long-term consequences, long-term benefits, etc., and making a choice rather than looking at short-term benefits. Whereas nowadays, we look at short-term benefits in the process, we fail to see the long-term benefits, and as a result, life is full of changes and breaking of relationships, etc. And finally, development. When you say development, counseling should help an individual to develop more and more positive qualities. So there should be an overall qualitative improvement in the individual, so that when he comes across any life situation, he is able to deal with it in an effective way, which in turn leads to satisfaction of one's needs in a better way, at the same time maintaining a harmonious relationship with the environment. So these are all, I would say, are broader goals. Now, coming to these one by one, where I would like to mention in a specific manner. Like the first one, in the previous thing, we said facilitating behavior change. When you say behavior change, now, how do we do that? For example, as teachers, you would have experienced, as long as you were a student, well, you would have thought that, well, teacher's job is easy. All that you have to come to the class is you talk on the subject. On the other hand, only when you become a teacher, well, you would have realized that, well, going to a class and teaching in such a way that the students will understand, well, involves a lot of modifications, changes, approaches, etc. And one example is like behavior change. Well, nowadays, psychologists talk about learning disability. It is more and more a prevalent problem of a new emerging area here. And a learning disabled child, if you see, intellectually, his IQ is normal. The person behaves normally in every life situation, but he makes mistakes, maybe in the calculation, maybe in writing, in the spelling, etc. And it occurs because of a processing in, neurologically, which people don't understand. So when teachers and parents see that the child is normal in every other respect, including the measured intelligence, and when he commits mistakes, teachers and parents assume that, well, he is careless. As a result, they tell him, you practice, you keep practicing it at home, etc. But the child gets bored and he doesn't practice it. And parents and teachers criticize the child, scold him, and sometimes punish him, etc. And the child develops a feeling that no one is understanding me. I try to do my best. I do not know why the mistake occurs. So here, teachers who lack knowledge on learning disability believe that the student is speaking deliberately and he doesn't want to listen, and he deliberately he tries to commit mistakes, and they develop a dislike for the child because he is resisting me, he is not listening to me. But that is not the case. So when some teachers undergo a course in learning disability, when they understand why the problem occurs and how it occurs, etc., I've seen some of the teachers saying that, sir, my approach toward the student has changed. Now, when I come across such a student, well, I feel sorry for him and I feel confident that he needs some special attention. I try to provide him some assistance after the class hours. So I approach him sympathetically. As a result, the child feels comfortable learning from me. Now, there is a behavior change in you. Earlier, You believe that the child was doing it deliberately, and as a result, you try to punish him, you try to be critical in front of other classmates, etc. Whereas now you approach him sympathetically, you are positive, and you provide support to the individual, you encourage him, etc. There is a behavior change. So that is what we mean by behavior change. When I say establish and maintain relationship, please mute yourself. Establish and, as I told you, establishing is doesn't mean just mean that when somebody is in front of you, just saying hello and then start conversing with the individual. It is not as easy as that. When you provide opportunity, there may be people who may be shy. So there may be students who are shy. So when they are shy, they become self-conscious when they have to initiate an interaction with somebody. They feel that others may think bad of me because I may commit a mistake in relating with somebody. As a result, they try to keep away from others. When you force them to sit among a group of children here thinking that you are helping them, no. The child will feel more uncomfortable, anxiety will be high. As a result, going to a class will be actually, he will develop a phobia in going to a class, etc. As a result, understand that he is a shy individual, and then try to provide him the support and try to help him to overcome the shyness rather than forcing him to do the opposite. So that way, then how to maintain a relationship? Because when you say maintaining a relationship, how you relate with the individual on a day-to-day basis. Because I've seen many people nowadays saying that, well, maybe students, maybe youngsters in their office also, they go to the boss and say, sir, tomorrow I won't be coming. Now, what they say, they don't mean to insult the boss, but when they say, I won't be coming, the boss says, well, I won't grant you leave, you should come. Now, why is the problem here? Well, the boss thinks that the other person is just giving me an order. He's not treating me as a boss. That is the interpretation of the boss. Whereas the interpretation of the subordinate is, well, all that I said was I cannot come tomorrow because I have an important work at home, so I'm going on leave. Why should this fellow be angry? There is a way of telling. When you say, I won't be coming tomorrow, you say that you think that you have already, the boss think that you have already decided, and then you are just giving him a notice, not just seeking permission. When you seek permission, you must tell him that, sir, I have some important work at home tomorrow, and I request you to grant me a leave. Whereas when the boss says that, the youngster say that, well, I have not committed any mistake. Why should this person be unhappy? Like I had a peon in my department, a very sincere worker and a very good fellow. He used to treat the office also as his own home. So anytime you ask him to come, he would come. I don't have to give him any direction. Every work he will do it with the maximum involvement. But at the same time, he had difficulty with my colleagues for quite a long time. And if I send him to the office for something, and he will come back and say, sir, they are refusing me. They say that they will not do it. And when I call them, the office people, and said, what happened? The office people used to say, that fellow comes and asks, do it immediately. I have to go. And as a result, I told him I will not do that. And they smiling, they used to tell me. The reason is, this fellow goes there and say that, well, do it immediately because I have some urgent work in the department. They are waiting for me. As a result, I have to go. So when they first come, the other people deliberately tell him, I will not do it. The way he says. On the other hand, if he says, well, people are waiting in the department, I need to go only, I have to go and do that. So can you please do it immediately? Because the person is not experienced. And when he comes and they say, well, why do you say like that? The fellow used to say, sir, I have not done any mistake. I have to come soon. That's why I told him. Well, there is an interpersonal, maintaining a relationship becomes difficult. As a result, try to see how you need to present it. What you are saying is important. Equally important is how you are saying that to maintain relationships in a healthy way. So that way, many of us do not have the skills. As a result, we commit mistakes in maintaining a relationship, and those skills are to be established. And counseling should help them to learn those skills. And another one that I mentioned was enhancing effectiveness. Like there may be students who may be good in their studies. So in a classroom, there may be different categories of people. There may be a small group of students who are very good in their studies, who learn very fast. There may be a small group of students who are quite slow. There may be a average amount of students, number of average type of students. So as a teacher, on the one side, you need to pay attention to the bright students. On the other side, you have a responsibility for the dull ones also. So when you keep teaching slowly and repeat the point again and again, the brighter students may get bored. Whereas when you just explain it once, the slow learner may not be able to understand. So in which case, you need to find a way here where the student who is bright, who is learning faster, well, you try to give him some opportunity to learn still better. So as a result, help them to enhance their effectiveness. He learns. Maybe give him the responsibility of helping other classmates to learn subject matter. Then he knows how to help them. And when he tries to help many people, his knowledge actually gets further strengthened. As a result, he's able to do still better. So that way, enhancing effectiveness is another aspect. Then promoting decision making. I told you decision making involves choosing an alternative from among the many. And youngsters have difficulty in that. Like, there is a case who approached me last week. This girl has now completed her BSc in psychology. But at the same time, she didn't know what she needed to do next. Should she take up a job or should she go in for higher education, etc. So she was in a state of confusion. As a result, she came to me. Then when I asked her, what do you want to do? She said, sir, I have no clear goals. I do not know what I need to do. So do you enjoy learning psychology? Yes, sir. Why do you enjoy learning psychology? Then she blinks. She doesn't realize that whatever she has learned, she can relate it with herself, understand herself better, understand her strengths and weaknesses. She can understand others better, etc. And which aspect she enjoys doing, which aspect she does not enjoy doing, she had no idea about it at all. And on further interaction, I found that the parents do not get along well. As a result, she could not interact with the parents properly to find out her goals. She was not comfortable interacting with the teachers to find out her goals. Because of her intelligence, she went to the class, she learned the subject matter, she wrote the examination, she passed the examination. That's all. Then we discussed, and then she realized that, well, she wants to take up a career in relating to psychology, for which she need to go in for post-graduation in psychology. So she was very clear in that. Then she applied. She has applied for a post-graduation. Then again, after about 10 days, she called me, and she said, "Sir, I have applied in many colleges, but my parents, especially my father, suggests that I go to New Zealand for higher studies. And I also feel that it may be better, and my family also thinks so." Now, again, I found that her decision was not clearly thought of. So when I asked her, why do your parents want you to go abroad for higher studies? Why not in India itself? There are many good colleges and universities. She said, sir, my parents say that my quality of life would be better. Well, right now, this is not a time to think of the quality of life. You are yet to start your life. Life is not just studying alone. And again, I asked her, well, what do you mean by quality of life? Why do you think that you want to go abroad? Or why is it that your parents say that? She said the quality of life means, sir, in New Zealand, the corruption is very less, and everything is done in a proper way and systematically. As a result, the quality of life would be better. Actually, when everything happens smoothly, well, your quality of life cannot be better because there is no scope for you to learn. Whereas only when there are challenges in your life, when there are blocks in your progress, you learn to solve the problems, only then you become psychologically stronger. And right now, The thing is, your main priority is post-graduation psychology rather than life and all. And then she saw the point. Then she said, yes, sir, I can understand. So look at it here. Well, there are many things. The quality of life is important, ultimately in a broader aspect. But just because you land in Thailand or you land in New Zealand doesn't mean your quality of life is going to be taken care of. That is not the case at all. There may be many things. As a result, then we discussed, and then she thought that this is my priority. Right now, my priority is doing a post-graduation, and then I will think about it. So let me do it in India itself. And another reason, as I interacted with the mother, then she gave me another point which the girl did not discuss. The parents were not getting along well. There were a lot of problems between them. As a result, the child is caught between the two. So the mother said that she wants to go to New Zealand because she can escape this mess between the parents. So she wants to go away from the problem, but that is not going to solve her problem at all. She wants to escape the problem. She is not trying to handle the problem here, and which will again reflect in her quality of life in the long run, which actually she is not solving the problem now. She is running away from the problem. So as a result, the decision is inappropriate. So such a person needs counseling as to what would be an appropriate choice. Then where I said development. When I say development, I told you that it should be an overall qualitative change in the individual. So when there is the overall qualitative change in the individual, now what it implies is that there may be strengths in you which you develop. At the same time, there may be inadequacies also. Generally, what we do is when we identify our strengths, we go based on their strengths, ignoring the inadequacies. Well, I don't feel comfortable with mathematics. As a result, I take up psychology. That means you want to remain weak in mathematics forever. When I'm introduced to some people, like when people say, well, he's a psychology teacher or a counselor or whatever, immediately some people react, oh, then I should be careful in talking to you. When I ask them why, they say that, well, you will identify my weaknesses, you will identify my problems, as a result, I should be careful. Which means you want to live with your problem forever. So you do not want, when you know that there is a problem, you should see this as an opportunity. Well, instead of me going in search of somebody, here is a person who is right in front of me. It's an opportunity for me. Let me make use of that, talk to him, and then come out with my weaknesses, understand, try to overcome them. We don't do that. They say, I should be away from you. So that way, many times we keep ourselves away from our problems. That should not be the case. That's why I usually say, when someone feels comfortable doing an activity, he did not bother about doing it, because when he feels comfortable, that means he is already competent in that. Whereas when she or he, it may be a student in your class, it may be a friend, or it may be somebody, when someone feels uncomfortable doing something, that means he is inadequate in that. He is weak in that. That means this feeling of inadequacy indicates that here is an opportunity in front of you. This is where you need to develop. Only then you can grow into an all-round developed person. Only then you can be a psychologically a healthy person. So you must seek opportunities for development. That is where you can see a person with low self-esteem avoids new situations and feels comfortable doing routine things. Whereas a person with high self-esteem seeks new, unfamiliar situations, because that helps him to learn new things, and as a result, he can he can grow. So that should be the attitude. So that way, when you are weak, identify the weaknesses, try to overcome weaknesses, so that you will add to more and more of your strengths, and ultimately you will become qualitatively a better person, a mentally healthy person. So counseling, wherever an individual has difficulties in these goals, counseling should focus on them and help the individual to develop those aspects. Now, I've mentioned about the broader goals. Let me mention one or two specific aspects. Like, for example, there are feelings where a person may feel that I'm not understood. My teacher does not understand me. My parents do not understand me. So talking to them is not going to be helpful. As a result, I don't talk to anybody at all. Whatever others say, I do that. Like, for example, when there is a slow learner, he is born that way. It's not that he chose to be like that. But many teachers think that, well, when a student is not learning fast, he is causing inconvenience to the teacher. Ultimately, the teachers generally are fond of students who learn well and who develop some sort of a negative feeling towards students who are not learning well. Actually, it should be the opposite. The slow learner needs your sympathy. The slow learner needs your support. When you are critical, you keep him away. So the child thinks that, well, I want to learn, but my teacher is not understanding me. When I tell my parents don't understand me. They are critical of me. They blame me for everything. As a result, I'm not feeling comfortable with anyone. That is why children may withdraw from school, children may withdraw from people, or sometimes they commit suicide also. So as a result, say, for example, when the plus 2 results are published, when a student fails in plus 2, well, life is not doomed for him. It's going to be postponed by about 6 months. But the society and the parents have created a feeling that, well, if you don't get good marks in your plus 2, life is over for you. And as a result, the youngster thinks that, well, I failed in the examination. When I go back, my parents will be hostile to me. The whole society is hostile to me. People don't understand me. As a result, I do not want to face them. Commit suicide. So feeling misunderstood or feeling not understood can cause psychological problems to an individual. And when your child or when your student gets a first rank, he will be bubbling with energy. That time he doesn't look for your support. But when a student fails, it is he who needs your support. Instead of blaming him, criticizing him, looking down upon him, this is a time when you need to provide the support. Don't worry. Well, failure doesn't mean that you are an inferior individual. I'll help you to learn and do it better next time. Provide the support. I would always suggest the parents and teachers to provide the support when your child fails and not try to take credit for success alone. So it is during the failure or negative events that he needs your support. Don't create a feeling that he is not understood. That is an important aspect. The same way, self-esteem. What is the cause of low self-esteem? Being highly critical can be a cause of low self-esteem. And if you see in the Indian society, the parents, the teachers are critical in nature. So when you are critical, they think that by being critical, I try to motivate the child to do better. That is not the case. When you day in and day out, you point out the negative in the child, he tends to believe that I'm born inferior. One example that I give you, which happens in the present day society, is like 40 years ago, there was no private tuition. There were tuition was offered only to those children who were slow in learning, who had difficulty in learning in a classroom. So the idea was, when the parents say that my child is going for a tuition, the idea was that the child was slow in learning. That was the idea earlier. Whereas today, 90% of the children are sent for tuition. Now, psychologically speaking, which one is right? When the child says, I will learn, I do not want tuition, the parents say that, no, you will not study, you will keep watching TV, or you will be meddling with your mobile phone, or you will be playing with your friends, you won't study at all. As a result, you must go for a tuition. So the present day parent gives him a feeling that you are not capable of learning on your own. That itself can have an impact on the self-esteem, the self-confidence of the child. Whereas in the olden system, the child is allowed to learn on his own. When he learns and when he sees that he is doing well in the examination, that actually strengthens his self-esteem, not just the marks in the examination. That strengthens the self-esteem, gives him the confidence that, yes, I can face my life situation. So that way, self-esteem is another important aspect. So when the child is getting low grades, doesn't mean that he's not putting the effort. That is not the only reason. Low self-esteem could be a reason. So you need to understand that whole child better rather than looking at the specific problem here. Then I said relationships. So when you say relationship, some children may be aggressive, may be distracting in a class, etc., whom you call as a problem student. Well, when a student is a problem student, for him in life, something has been wrong somewhere. That is why he is behaving like that. Like, for example, at home, the child may be a neglected child. So only when he does something, he gets the attention. Something negative, he gets the attention. When we do something positive, you don't pay much attention to that. When something negative happens, say for example, when a teacher really teaches well, parents don't go to the school and say this teacher has done a great job. We don't do that at all. Whereas when a teacher scolds a child, the next day the parents are there complaining to the headmaster and standing in front of the TV saying that this teacher is doing that, the teacher has to be punished, etc. But we never go in front of the TV saying that this teacher has done a very good job. We never do that. So positive is not actually encouraged. So the same thing with regard to the child also. When he fails, we are critical. And when the child feels neglected, he indulges in negative behavior because negative behavior gets him the attention rather than positive behavior. So instead of punishing such a child, try to find out why the child is behaving that particular manner. Try to help him satisfy that need. Then he can develop a positive relationship. So that way, so focus on the reasons for the problem behavior. Then educational counsel. There are umpteen number of courses in schools and colleges, and psychologists believe that selection of a course and selection of a career should be a lifelong process which should start when the child is very young. Even when he is at the primary age, it should start. Whereas we think of a selection of a specialization or a career only when the child is about to enter +1 or +2. That too, if the parents want the child to take up a professional course. If it is not a professional course, well, the child does some course and then whatever job he gets, he takes it up later on. There is no goal at all. Whereas when you aim for something based on your interest, your motivation, your ability, that will give you satisfaction and a sense of achievement. So in educational counseling, when the child has difficulty in choosing a course, generally we say, well, you take up mathematics, you take up history, you take up engineering, etc. That is not counseling. In counseling, what you do is you try to understand the individual, like where his abilities lie, where his motivation lie, and accordingly you help him to choose a course. Whereas in engineering and medicine, etc., nowadays during college admission, we say there is counseling. What we do is actually not counseling. Because if that is counseling, if there is counseling, what you do here is, like when the admission for computer science is over, then you call the student, you say, you take up this branch, you take up that branch. That is not counseling. You are canvassing a student for admission in your college, that's all. You are doing an injustice for the child. Instead, irrespective of the mark, what counseling should do is, well, the child has got the highest mark in +2, true, yes. But will he be happy in computer science, or will he be happy in mechanical engineering? Will he be happy in medicine, etc.? You try to assess him for his motivation, for his ability, and then whether he will be happy there, and then guide him. Well, instead of taking up medicine, though you have the mark, instead of medicine, if you take up this course, it will be better for your quality of life. That is what educational counseling is all about, which we are not doing. So the same way, career counseling. A career is the sequence of positions one is likely to hold throughout the life of the individual. So where I have to start, when I start as a teacher in a college, well, what would I like to be? My next option is what is called as a reader, then a professor, a head of the department, then maybe a principal, maybe a registrar of the university, maybe a vice chancellor of the university, maybe higher level educational positions, etc. That is a career. So I would like to start here, but I would like to move in this direction. That is what is called as career counseling. So when I plan for the whole of my work life and go one step after the other, then that gives me a confidence, yes, I'm moving in the right direction. when I'm ultimately in my life, I'm able to reach the goal that I aim for, I have a sense of achievement in life. I have a sense of happiness in life. So not necessarily I become an engineer or a doctor, only then I'll be happy. I can be a clerk in an office, I can be happy. I can be a primary school teacher and very happy in life rather than being a doctor, etc. So that is what life is all about. So that way, so the ultimate goal of counseling, as I told you, is the overall qualitative improvement of the individual rather than amassing wealth, etc. So keep that in mind. So in counseling, you are helping an individual to develop his potentials to deal with life situations effectively, ultimately become an effective, a satisfied individual, at the same time an individual who will contribute to the betterment of the society also. So that is with regard to the goals of counseling. Now, if there are any questions, well, I'm ready to answer. Anyway, thank you for all the opportunities and the patient listening. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Professor Suresh, sir, for
Thank you, sir.
you have covered. Actually, what are the goals related to school? What are the goals related to career counseling? What are the goals related to colleges, then families, and and each parameters, each area, you just covered so thoroughly, crystal clearly. Actually, I have today I got a lot of clarity as far as goals are concerned. But all these things are not in the book. I know this is a through experience only. Just one can give this a total picture as far as goals of counseling is concerned. I think really I congratulate you just as a WCOP just members. Then I think our students also got benefited a lot. I think
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, because already I told you when I gave it 2 classes also, through richest experience only, this much of richness in clarification of counseling, it is being evolved. In a way, I think Professor Suresh sir, today and other day also, he has given a total, that's what I told you. Counseling, it is really a sensitive issue. All people cannot attaching the qualification. No, it is not at all helping to their profession. Through richest experience, through just almost what psychologists are doing, they are not at all reading the books. That's what I have been telling. See, in now Google, so much of knowledge is there for anything, not only counseling, not only whatever it might be. But one should go through, learn. So thank you, sir, for
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
very
sir.
good just clarity as far as goals are you have covered in almost all the areas. Once again, thank you for your very nice lecture. Any
I do compliment Professor Suresh for giving an excellent
Thank you, sir.
view of these goals and other things are concerned. We have been practicing, and I have recognized all the aspects that you spoke, Professor Suresh. Thank you very much. It was a very nice presentation.
Feel honored by the compliments of a senior professor. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Participants, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening to all. I'm Shahina. Thank you so much, Professor Suresh, sir, for your wonderful enlightening session on what are the goals related to school counseling, how your teacher should be with your child, how to provide support when the child needs, how to develop a positive relationship, how to assess a child, well explained with live examples, sir. I thank Professor B.G. Reddy sir for arranging us one more session with you. Once again, I thank WCOP core committee. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a nice, wonderful session, sir. I have gained a lot of knowledge and what aspects we need to deal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is a very wonderful session and I understood clearly, sir. Thank you very much. And
Thank
also I
you, thank you.
thank to Ramadevi Garu. I know to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I am Dasha Gaud. Sir, truly, sir, it is an August lecture and guidelines from you, sir. We have learned a lot, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Since this is the last session, my best wishes to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Just actual point I am forgetting because of this over enthusiasm of Professor Suresh have given a very good lecture. Dear participants, kindly make a note. You see, we are going to give just 5 points as a feedback, and I will give model also because we have implemented this feedback sheet in our distance board psychology program as well. But of course, I know the psychology of you also. If I ask you to say, what about the overall effectiveness of 3 months training program? If I ask, good. That word only you will write. No, you are not supposed to do that. Yeah, I will give you a model note also. Why? Because why I am asking you for those 5 questions. Of course, there are 2 ways of obtaining feedback now. One is on Google form also, we are just preparing, and that also we will give. That you just fill it up and you close along with your I think almost all your course coordinator, Professor Ashok, will give you how to just attach the so-called feedback sheet along with all record sheets. It is in the form of, in total, it is in the form of feedback PDF. He will ask you. But here, mainly, there are about 25 or 26 are there. 25 people, what I request you, at least 5 areas, you just give me that feedback in 5 sentences and kindly give, say, Professor B.G. Reddy, you just give your capital letter, give your name in capital letters and where you are working. Like that, I will give you the instructions in the WCOP WhatsApp group also I will keep, so that by just obtaining that, there may not be any mistakes in writing down your certificate. So in that, just your name, full name, designation, and from where you are working, some of the points we will go, and each person, 25 people means here, 5 sentences. I think in total 3 to 4 pages it will not exceed. And these 3 to 4 pages of feedback, we are going to put it into different WhatsApp groups throughout India, all psychology WhatsApp groups. And now today, throughout India, we are having more than 150 and 200 professors are with us. So 150 professors or 200 professors, Though I think for me, I am with 15 to 20 WhatsApp groups in psychology alone. And similarly, each person may be having more than minimum 5 to 6 psychology WhatsApp groups are there. And this feedback, three pages or 4 pages, and my objective is it should reach everybody. That we have conducted this training program so effectively. All people should know. That is the purpose. That's why I will give model also. So just you follow that. Kindly send. I think just within 1 or 2 days. You give us so that by seeing your name, designation, everything, we will prepare your certificates also. And the last day, that probably we are going to have a validity session on Wednesday. Just we will discuss in the committee and we will finalize probably Wednesday. But then there we'll go agenda what to be done. And that day also we are having a minimum 30 minutes talk also is there. With that we are going to close that this 3 months training program on school counseling. All right, kindly follow this and just whatever the instructions myself giving or the course coordinator is giving, kindly follow it, and it is mostly beneficial for you. Right. Thank you very much once again. Thanks to, I think, on behalf of our repertoire course now coordinator of today's session, Rama Devi, I am just extending thanks to Professor Suresh, Professor Krishnamurthy sir, then other special invitees, Dr. Easter, and another madam, J. Kumar Garu, just who are with us, and our beloved participants. Once again, thank you, one and all. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night. Once again, thanks to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.